I am so happy to be sitting. This is so cozy. I really like
it. It is cozy.
I'm so happy to be sitting here with Erica. She co-founded Grid Alternatives in 2001 and has developed it into a major national nonprofit. And she has been on my summit speaker get list for at least 5 years, if not more. So I'm glad to finally have you sitting on this stage in Wisconsin.
I hope I can live up to it.
Yeah, you already have. That's my introduction of you. Why don't you talk about Grid Alternatives work, a little about yourself?
Sure. Thank you for having me. And I told her, we were chatting in the back, I said we could just have a old friends conversation up here. I bet people will love it. It's really fun to be in the Midwest because I grew up in Michigan and have kind of built this thing, but mostly not in the Midwest. And so I was reviewing what is it that Grid Alternatives does and what am I going to tell you all? And I was thinking about how our very origins and the things that we do are so Midwestern. So Grid Alternatives is a nonprofit organization. We are the nation's largest nonprofit solar installer. We install solar, batteries, chargers, all for environmental justice, economic justice communities. In practice, what that means is that to qualify to participate in one of our programs, every family or nonprofit or apartment building needs to serve income qualified families. And we do single family, affordable housing, some community solar with a wide variety of communities across the country. So we have, and actually internationally, so we have an international program that serves, Mexico, Nepal, and Nicaragua. We have a very substantial native-led and run tribal program that works with about 70 plus sovereign nations across the country. And we also are populated in California, Colorado, the mid-Atlantic, and do some projects in sort of the in-betweens. And we really view ourselves as builders in an ecosystem that's serving the same population. And so there are many things that folks could do in that ecosystem, but we really pride ourselves in what it means to really do a tangible project. And we have a pretty expansive view of what building can be. So it could be building the diverse workforce of a clean economy in the future. It could be building the policies and programs that are needed to make that work. And then about a third of our staff are actually construction or outreach staff who are building in the way that we all think of building, up on a rooftop, in a field, making projects happen. So sometimes we say people, planet, and employment because workforce development is as critical to our work as the people we're serving and the planet that we are all protecting. So that's kind of the gist, and the way I see it being super Midwestern, when we started, it was just myself and a colleague. We had kind of a good idea, but no money, and really we didn't know anything. We didn't know how to install solar or any of that stuff, and so it was very much like a barn raising, where it was like, we, twisted an arm of a contractor to come out and help us. We got some panels and an inverter donated, and then we talked to everybody that we knew. We're like, we're gonna get together. It was very potlucky. It was the Midwestern potluck. Everybody rolled up their sleeves to make something happen. And I think if there's a theme of the work that I really am excited about doing in the Midwest and the work that you all are doing, it's that not too big for your britches, just bring a dish to the potluck, roll up your sleeves, and if we do it kindly with good listening together, we can really make huge impact. And one last thing, because I was here all day listening to sort of the vibe of the place, and I feel like we're all really positive, and there's this does the government care about climate? Does the government care about all these investments? And as somebody who's been doing this 20 years before anybody cared about anything, the work goes on, right? So I think we've been doing the work. There are communities that have been doing the work. Tribes in Wisconsin have been doing the work for thousands of years. Like, all we need to do is bring a dish to the potluck and get ready. So that's my Midwestern grid alternatives story.
Love it. One thing I think grid alternatives does really well is centering communities in your work. Can you talk about the importance of centering communities in the clean energy transition?
Yeah, I mean, we're all in it together. Often people closest to the issue have the best sense of solutions. And so it's on all of us to listen to ourselves and to listen to communities, because otherwise we're fighting these conflicting needs, right? In the hierarchy of needs, renewables as a standalone might not be your highest priority, but housing your elders might be. And that might have everything to do with utility costs and energy affordability. Or, clean transportation might not be your highest need, but getting affordably from one place to another quickly in a vehicle that works for you might be. So I think really taking that essence of listening, that's what centering a community means. It means you start with, what do you need? Mm-hmm. And for grid, it's like, well, here's a menu of things we know how to do. Are those any things that you might want? If not, okay, great, we might not be able to help. If yes, what are the things on the menu that we could help with?
How do you engage communities to take the lead in energy transitions? And do you have an example of a project that Grid worked on that exemplifies that?
Sure. I hope that would be every project we work on, but we're not always perfect. I think taking the lead is assuming that you're not leading, right? Whoever you are in that thing. If there's someone who you're asking, how do I allow you to take the lead? Well, then you step on back and just say, where are you going? Can I come? For us, it has really been about partnerships, making sure that we're building strong partnerships. Some of the lunchtime, was it the lunchtime discussion? I think so. Yes, about all the different partnerships. Are like, all right, you're already serving your community in this way. How could we add on to that or partner with you? So I think for us, taking the lead of communities means working with leaders in that community. It means working with organizations that are serving that community, especially now that we're so large in scope. That means that our organization is not going to be at the center of every community. It's a really diverse community. So we're working in LA with folks impacted by the criminal justice system. It's like, who else is serving those communities? Are we partnering with those organizations? When we're working here in Wisconsin, it's like, well, what's Mterra doing? What are they telling us to do? What do they want us to do? How do we listen? And they're doing the same thing. They're listening to their 36 tribes and constituents saying, what do you need? How can we support? So I think it's really like getting that deeper and deeper partnership and listening that really then allows people to do what they're already doing, which is leading in their lives, right? People are not saying, oh, I don't want to lead, I don't want to do this, right? Everybody's figuring it out in their neighborhood, in their small environment, or in their family. So I think it's really just like, how do you get deeper and deeper with partnerships to listen and follow?
Is there one in the history of you doing this work, one that really stands out as one that's really special to you?
So many really special projects. I'll tell something that's sort of personal to me. I have 3 kids, and when I came back from my maternity leave with my 3rd child, the first day I didn't want to leave him, and we didn't have good childcare. So I put him on an airplane, and I flew to Flagstaff from my house in California, and then drove from Flagstaff, I think it was like 3 hours, to the Navajo Nation, where we were installing a system for an elder. His name was Henry Yahtzee, and he was absolutely incredible, and he had served in the military, and according to his sister, when he came back, he just kind of was having a hard time finding his footing, and was living in a pre-made house but without any electricity. And so the system that we installed over a couple of days provided power to his house. And it's really the first installation I went to where when the system was turned on, nearly everyone cried. And so there was something about being a mom with a new baby in someone else's community and having the honor of watching that experience, and knowing that in some small way I had helped contribute to that was super powerful.
Love that. I should have said this in the beginning, and I didn't. If you have questions for Erica, I have some prepared, but go to the Whova app. You can put your questions in there, and I will leave time at the end to read some of those to Erica and have her answer them. Grid Alternatives has a strong focus on workforce development. How do you structure training programs to ensure accessibility and success for participants?
Again, partnership is really key. So we have a couple of workforce development programs. The two primary ones are what we call a Solar Core program, which is a 1-year fellowship within our organization where, mostly young people come, but we have some folks that are not that young coming to participate in that. And it's kind of like a trial employment period where you really can, it's not just job training and then you are placed, but it's like a year-long, how do you navigate office culture, or how do you navigate construction culture? And so that's our, sort of the premier workforce development program we have. And then we have what's called installation basic training, which is really this on-ramp into installation jobs, which we are working on making sure are sort of have career mobility. So not just you're learning how to become an installer, but you're on an electrician pathway if that's the pathway you want, or into design, or a wide variety, roofing, a wide variety of other sort of mobility options that you can move from one career to another in case there's some sort of political up and down, or that work isn't in your particular community. So installation basic training is really the way that we serve as many people as possible. And within that, there were a lot of focus areas. So what you're saying, it's like you have to have culturally competent training. You have to have trainers who come from the community they're training and can speak the language or understand the barriers or understand the opportunities within that community. Really partnering with other organizations to either train trainers that they have or hire from that community is the way in which we make our work accessible. So we're not saying we need to be the expert in X, Y, and D. We have this partnership with Goodwill, for instance, where we're training their trainers and helping them build labs, like sort of classroom with a mock roof and places that you can install stuff in their facilities, and then training their trainers who know their job trainees better than we do to be able to do that work. And that's similar to what Dan was talking about from Mterra that we're doing together in the workforce development. So it's like, okay, work with the community college, work with local folks, work with, our indigenous team, and build something that really is culturally competent, that understands distance that you want to travel for a job, that understands like what you care about, your obligations in terms of, cultural ceremonies. So it's really about working with partners on the ground to make that happen. And then we offer sort of the curriculum and the knowledge of how do you install? I think the other part to our job training work, which you didn't ask about, but I'll just add on, is that it has a boots on the roof component where not only are you in a lab, because we are also an installer, you are also going out and actually installing to get those installations under your belt before you are actually going out into the workforce.
Have you done any installations?
Oh yeah. In the olden days, I did all of them. We were very bad. Remember that contractor I told you that we asked to come out? Oh, we had several of those. They taught me everything. I used to be up on the rooftop. I was way worse than any of our installers are now. I still wake up in like a cold sweat about one install that we did where I'm sure I didn't do it quite right. But those were the early days. Now the team is much more buttoned up. But in the early days, yeah, 2004, we did 2 installs. Myself and Tim. That was it. We had no other staff. We weren't getting paid. We did it with volunteers and some contractors that we talked into coming out.
And the workforce training programs that you have, are they in all of the geographical areas that you work in, or are they just in
wherever
some?
we have a physical footprint, we're doing workforce development. So basically, the way in which we install is workforce development. So it's like our staff overseeing the installation and teaching people how to install. Where we don't have a footprint, we're often working with local contractors and providing a workforce development component there as well. And then we've launched this whole train the trainer thing where we're not even doing installs at all. We're just helping stand up workforce development programs in those markets.
What advice do you have for Wisconsin businesses, advocates, education institutions, and elected officials on how to grow a diverse clean energy workforce?
I wrote down some notes. Let's see if I can remember them without looking at my pieces of paper here. I think there's a lot that can be done in the contracting RFP phase. Mandating local hiring, mandating that you're working with contractors that are local. Even I've seen really interesting contracts where that contractor has to hire at least one job trainee from a particular program in the region. So I think, you can do all of that without a mandate. So if you're a contractor, you should look for local folks that are often really incredible and super hard workers for your crews. And I tell you, if you train them up, they'll do right by you. But I also think there's a lot, like when Wisconsin is putting out RFPs, I am hoping that you wrap in some sort of workforce development component because policy does make a difference, and there doesn't have to be a policy that's like something really legislative. It can just be, this is going to be how we're going to do our contracting. That's what we're going to look for.
You talked a little bit about the tribal work that Grid Alternatives does. Can you share some insights into working with tribal nations to advance clean energy and some best practices that Wisconsin tribes could adopt when pursuing their clean energy goals?
Yeah, well, first, as a white woman, the biggest thing I do to support tribes is get the heck out of the way in general. So, our tribal program is all Native run and led, and I really try to do the best that I can to listen to those staff and say, hey, what's your vision? Where are you taking things? What do you think is really important? Our tribal program is really special in that because it really has started with deep listening, we have a lot of things on the menu. So we have a traveling crew that goes to different places to do installs. I was just in Nevada at an install where they were doing a pole-mounted system, and it was up, I don't know, maybe 15 feet, so they could, and it was at their high school, or maybe it was there was a basketball court inside. So I'm not totally sure it was a high school, but it was like a community building that had a basketball court, and they were going to have vendors and other events underneath the solar panels, and that was what they wanted. So it's really, for me, about getting out of the way and trying to allow, the great work and the great vision that's happening with our tribal folks to happen. So we have I got distracted with what we do. So we have a traveling crew that installs. We do a lot of re-gifting through what we call the Tribal Solar Accelerator Fund. So we'll get big grants, and then tribes will apply to our Tribal Solar Accelerator Fund to get additional dollars to help with a gap. Maybe they, have a little bit extra money, they need some more money to make a project happen, or maybe they need all the money to make it happen. So we've been providing some re-gifting there. We also have some grant money for planning grants so that people can put together a plan, a 5 or a 10-year plan to figure out what they want to do. That way it also doesn't get lost in translation when government turns over and when people turn over, in terms of like, the last council member was really excited about something, but now this one isn't. So they have like a written plan in place. We have a fellowship program for Native leaders to build a cohort amongst themselves to just really talk about the energy work that they're doing and build community that way. Did I miss something, John? What? Oh, policy and workforce. Thanks, see? John Teller on the tribal team in the audience here, and a fellow Wisconsinite. We do policy, so supporting policy needs for tribes, and also workforce development, which Dan talked about a bunch, and that's what we plan to do with MTerra here in the Midwest.
Awesome. I do have some questions from the audience, so I think maybe I'm going to have to skip some of mine, but it's okay. So I know there's a lot of uncertainty about these programs, but how have federal programs like Inflation Reduction Act and Solar for All shaped grid alternatives work? And how do you see that shaping it going forward?
Yeah, I would say it's the other way around. We shaped Solar for All, just to say, again, we've been doing this for 20 years. So it precedes an RFP from the Environmental Protection Agency. It precedes the Inflation Reduction Act. And that infusion of energy, of validation, and of real financial investment was absolutely incredible, because what it means for the country is that all of us, the state of Wisconsin, other states in the Midwest, the state of California, GRID has 2 Solar for All grants, one tribal in the Southwest plus California, and one affordable housing across 30 states, including Wisconsin. That is like the injection of energy everybody was asking for. So I do think that there's continues to be tremendous opportunity to meet the goals of the Solar for All program, which is really, for us, just doing a lot more of what we have been doing at a rapid scale. But it didn't change our work. It didn't define our work. The work was the work, and we didn't change what we were going to do to get some funding. We just said, we will do more of what we're doing if you give us the funding. So I think it's very transformative. And prior to that, states were stepping up. So there's been incredible policy at the state and city level across the country that really what the federal government did was look around the country and say, what are all the great models? Let's sort of smash it into an RFP and ask the country to do what it's already been innovating. So I think there's just a lot of opportunity both for those dollars to be spent in a really powerful way, fingers crossed, and for states to continue to step up to the plate.
I feel so rude looking at my phone while you're talking.
Oh, it's all good. I might have to live here too.
I just gotta text my friends. Tell them where I am.
We'll take a selfie.
Can you speak more, this is from the audience, can you speak more on how the work goes on in the current administration? There's a lot of Dysregulated nervous systems, people seem stuck on anxiety and reaction. How do we move into action and stay grounded? So
I have an answer.
Yeah. Okay, great.
I mean, I have a line.
I read that so poorly that I was
It's all good. I
I
get the thing. We are dysregulated. How do we not go like this, or how do we not put the brakes on? The work is really important. At Grid this year, we have just taken all of our goals. We always do this like annual goal setting thing, and we took all the goals and then we put after it, prove it's possible. And I feel like that is the way that we stay regulated, which is we are going to prove that equitable renewable energy is a thing. We're going to prove that our communities want this. We're going to prove we can do it. We're going to do it one house or one field, one apartment building at a time. Oh, my mic went in and out for a second. And so I think for me, I find that sort of the feistiness that I need. Like, we got a lot of work to do. So let's not get distracted by whatever is happening. We need to really continue to plug forward, because otherwise we're just like doing the work for someone else to say shut down. Right? We don't want to shut down. We want to keep going. There's a lot of work to do. I hope that's as inspiring as I can be. That's what we're doing. We're just like trying to knock it out of the park every day, and just do good work and just make that be. If you build it, they will come.
Yes. How do you work to ensure that you're not just training workers, but you're creating pathways to long-term family-sustaining careers?
I think that's a really good question that, not like, oh, it's a good question, thank you for asking. I think we should be asking ourselves deeply that question. If we're not really critiquing, we should be really thinking about, are we paying living wages? Is this a race to the bottom? How do we, and for us, we think about that as choice, right? So how are we giving, we have a specific role to play. We are really this on-ramp into an entry-level job. That isn't necessarily, I don't remember the words, but family sustaining and all the things. So we're trying to provide information so that people can have career mobility, right? And training so you can have career mobility. But we should all be not afraid to ask ourselves the hard questions. What does that pay? Dollars, per hour. Is that enough? How can we change that? How can we, have pathways into the union? How can we do pre-apprentice programs that put people into electrician jobs so that if the politics shift and you can't get a job in solar or storage right now, you could do inside wiring? Or you could do main service panel upgrades, which I am telling you is the unsexy hero of the renewable energy transition. Everybody needs a main service panel upgrade if you're going to want to plug in your car or get a hot tub or whatever else. Everybody needs a main service panel upgrade, and that needs an electrician. So those are all really good mobile, like sort of upwardly mobile jobs. But I think I don't want to sing a song of every green job is an excellent high-paying job if that's not true. So I think that is a really important question that we should keep asking as we're creating career pathways. The thing I'm super excited about our particular Solar for All program, and I think what will happen in every state, is this is so much work. It's not just work for all y'all who are installers in this room. We're going to need a lot more. You're going to need to grow your business. We're going to need a lot more people who are like thinking about starting their business. Maybe they're an electrician or a roofer, and they're like, maybe I should go out on my own and get my contractor's license. Like those folks, growing that contractor base, I think is really wealth building in our communities, and it's going to need to happen with this kind of investment because we don't have all the electricians to do that work just sitting around. And I think entrepreneurship and ownership of business is a really powerful way of building wealth. So
Nice.
appreciate the question.
Last question from the audience. How does your group or others like yours get funding to support your work? And who else should be funding? Tech colleges, utilities, environmental philanthropy, state or federal government, etc.?
Yes, please. How do we get money? For us, a lot of our growth and scale comes from a combination of philanthropy and government. And so I think that's where I don't know if we're out of time or you're not going to ask the policy question, but I'll answer one part of the policy question, which is local governments can make a huge difference if they put dollars behind renewable equity programs, right? I mean, that will scale in a community really quickly. And we've been very lucky to benefit from really smart policies in a lot of states. So, for instance, in California, where I'm located, we have a solar on multifamily program. We have a single family solar program, and we have a storage program, and we have sort of a wild west of clean mobility, EV type programs, all that are serving income qualified families. Now, I'm not saying Wisconsin has to do that, but that kind of investment grows an industry pretty quickly and really does change who is able to access these clean energies. And it can shift it in a way that takes folks who are energy burdened or are struggling with the affordability of their home or their apartment, and that includes utilities. It can really make a tremendous difference. So for Grid, we have really benefited from those kinds of local investments.
Great. Thank you so much for being here. I want to be respectful of Erica's time. She does have to skip out pretty quickly and catch a flight away from the cold ice.
Sadly, I'm going to cold ice,
okay.
so
But yeah, it was so nice to meet you. I didn't know that you had Midwestern ties, but now I know why I was so drawn to you for so many years. I feel like we're old friends already, and I just met you yesterday.
See, isn't that Midwestern?
She's been so kind with my head trauma. Hasn't been giving me a hard time at all. I want to give you, we do have a few minutes left, and I want to just give you the last 3 minutes to leave any parting words to Wisconsin or anything else you want to add that I didn't ask you about.
Well, I have been watching all of the amazing visuals on these screens all day, and you have incredible stories. To this prove it's possible and build it and they will come, you are already doing that, and it's such a treat to be able to see how much renewables the state is adopting in such a gorgeous environment. It's so green. And so I think you're sitting on this incredible opportunity and resource, and I would just want to come back and see how much you've done. So I say keep proving it's possible, because it really is. With or without the support of the federal government, y'all are doing amazing stuff.
Awesome, thank you. Can everybody in this room give a nice Midwestern thank you to Erica Mackie from Grid Alternatives? Thank you so much, Erica.
Thank you.